All right, so today for math class, we will be reviewing some topics that we've been going over in class the last few weeks because we'll be having a short exam tomorrow. So we'll be doing our review today in the form of an ed puzzle. And three topics that we'll be reviewing today are the same three topics that will be on our exam tomorrow. And those three topics are factors, prime numbers, and divisibility rules. So these three things we'll be going over today, and they'll also be on our exam tomorrow. All right, before we get started here, I want you guys to pull open. They're either on Schoology or else we gave them to you before you left last week, your multiplication charts and your prime number charts. So pull those open because we'll be using those for most of our problems today. And think of them basically as a little bit of a cheat sheet for you to use on your exams. All right, now that we have those pulled open, we've got two definitions over here. Factors is our first one. And a factor is two numbers that we multiply together to get an answer. So it's two numbers we multiply together to get an answer. And then we have our product. And the product is the answer to a multiplication problem. So knowing these two definitions, let's take a look at this multiplication problem over here. 3 times 4. Is 3 going to be a factor or a product? 3 will be a factor. So we can abbreviate that F-A-C-T. How about 4? Will 4 be a factor or a product? 4 will also be a factor because it's one of the two numbers we're multiplying together. So knowing that 3 is a factor and 4 is a factor, we know that 3 times 4 is 12. We can use our multiplication charts. So knowing that 3 times 4 is 12, what will 12 be? Will 12 be a factor or will 12 be a product? 12 will be a product because it's our answer to our multiplication problem. So we can abbreviate that one P-R-O-D. So 3 and 4 are our factors and 12 is our product. All right, moving on. This should look fairly familiar. We've been doing quite a bit of this in class recently. We are going to be finding the factors of the number 24. So when we find the factors of a number, we are always going to start with 1. So 1 times what number is 24? 1 times 24 is 24. And this is when we can use our multiplication charts. So let's try and find 2, see if 2 is a factor. So 2 times what number is 24? So find the 2 on your multiplication chart. 2 times 12 is equal to 24. Now we need to try our 3, see if 3 is a factor. 3 times what number is equal to 24? 3 times 8 is equal to 24. How about 4? 4 times what number is 24? 4 times 6. Moving on. How about 5? 5 times what number is equal to 24? It doesn't work. 5 is not a factor of 24. So what do? We'll cross it out. But we're not done yet. We still have to try these ones down here. Is 6 a factor of 24? 6 times what number is 24? 6 times 4 is 24. I noticed something. We're starting to repeat our factors. I noticed that we have a 4 down here, but we already listed 4 as a factor up there. And same with 6. We already listed 6 as a factor up here too. So what do we do when we start repeating factors? Do we continue going on or do we stop? Yep, we're going to stop. As soon as we start repeating factors, we can stop. Since we repeated the 6 and the 4, we will stop right there. Now that we have all of our numbers factored out for 24, we're going to list them over here in the box. Remember, we work outside in. So starting with our 1, and then we have 24 starting on the outside. Then we have 2 and 12 and 3 and 8. And lastly, 4 and 6. So what are the factors of 24? The factors of 24 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 24. So basically what we do is we're going to ask ourselves 1 times what number is 24? Then we move on to our 2, 3, and basically just work your way down the list. And once you stop, either you start repeating or else you get to the bottom, then you're going to list your factors over here. All right, moving on to prime numbers. So what is a prime number? A prime number is any number that only has 2 factors. So it only has 2 factors. That's going to be really important to remember. And those 2 factors are 1 and itself. So for example, 2 is a prime number. Its only 2 factors are 1 and 2. 3 is also a prime number. Its only 2 factors are 1 and 3. And same with 5 and 7. So these are 4 prime numbers. And if you flip over your multiplication chart, you will see you have a prime number chart, and that is going to list the first 100 or so prime numbers. So that's going to be a very good cheat sheet or reference for you guys to use during your exam and during this review too. So how do we tell if a number is prime? The first thing we are going to do is we are going to find the factors of a certain number. So for example, if it's 24, the first thing we'll do is we'll find the factors of 24. Then our second step will be to list all of those factors. And that's when you write them out in that box over here usually. Once we do that, we're going to count how many factors there are. And once we count them, if we counted more than 2 factors, no, it's not a prime number. But if we counted only 2 factors, only 2 of them, then yes, it will be a prime number. So this will be important to remember. We can always come back and reference it if we need to, because we'll be wondering what numbers are prime in these next few problems. All right, so we are going to find the prime or find the factors of the number 17, and then we're going to determine if it is a prime number. So first thing we'll do is we will factor out 17. So 1 times what number is 17? 1 times 17 is 17. How about 2? 2 times what number is 17? It doesn't work, so we can cross it out. 3 times what number is 17? That doesn't work either, so we can cross that one out. 3 is not a factor of 17. How about 4? Is 4 a factor of 17? No, it's not. We got to keep trying. How about 5? Is 5 a factor of 17? Nope. You can cross that one out too. 5 does not go into 17 evenly. How about 6? 6 a factor of 17? Nope. We can also cross that one out. And this last one, it's kind of hidden behind this box. 7 times what number is 17? That doesn't work either, so we'll cross that one out. So now that we have 17 factored out, we are going to do step 2. And what was step 2? Step 2 is list all of the factors. So what are our factors? Factors are 1 and 17. And that's it. The rest of them are crossed out. So we can not always use these extra lines. That's something important to remember. You won't always use these lines, or all of them, I should say. You might only use 2 of them, depending on if the number's prime or not. So how many factors does 17 have? 1, 2. And now knowing that, is 17 a prime number? Well, we know a prime number is a number that only has 2 factors. And 17 has 2 factors. So yes, 17 is a prime number. All right, we'll do one more of these together. We're going to find the factors of the number 12 and then determine if it's a prime number. So 1 times what number is 12? 1 times 12 is 12. 2 times what number is 12? 2 times 6 is equal to 12. 3 times what number is 12? 3 times 4 is equal to 12. How about 4? 4 times what number is equal to 12? 4 times 3. Ooh, we started repeating factors. We already have a 3 and a 4 up here. So when we start repeating factors, we can stop. So we will stop right there. So what are the factors of 12? Working our way from the outside in, we have 1 and 12. And we have 2 and 6. And we have 3 and 4. And then, whoop, we already listed 3 and 4. So we're not going to use these boxes. We can just leave them blank. So we are done. So what are the factors of 12? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. So how many factors does 12 have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different factors. Knowing that 12 has 6 factors, is 12 a prime number? No, 12 is not a prime number because we know a prime number only has 2 factors. All right, moving on to our last topic for today, which is divisibility rules. So what is divisibility? Divisibility means that after dividing a number, there will be no remainder. And here is our divisibilities chart. This will be given to you guys on the exam too, so you don't have to worry about memorizing it. We'll just use it as a reference today. So we know a number is divisible by 2 if the last digit, really important because we're only looking at the last digit. So the number is divisible by 2 if the last digit is even. Some examples of even numbers are 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. An example of a number that's divisible by 2 is 24, because 4 is our last digit and it's even. 1222 is also an example of a number that's divisible by 2, because the 2 is the last digit and that's also even. How about C? Is 26,248 divisible by 2? Yes, it is, because our last digit ends in an 8, which is even. And then we know a number is divisible by 5 if the last digit is a 0 or a 5. So some examples of some numbers divisible by 5 would be 50, 125, and 10,000. And lastly, a number is divisible by 10 if the last digit is a 0. So we're only looking at the last digit when it comes to divisibility. So some examples of some numbers divisible by 10 would be 100. So our last digit is a 0, 1,000, and 20,000. They all end in a 0. So we just need to not memorize, but we need to study this chart and see if we can get a grasp of coming up with a number and deciding if it is divisible by 2, 5, or 10. All right, so we will reference this chart as we work through these problems. So determine if the number is divisible by 2, 5, and or 10. So it can be divisible by more than just one of these. And then here's our little cheat sheet. So 256. We're looking at this last digit. Is 256 divisible by 2? Well, is the last digit even? Yes, it is. So the 6 is even, so this would be divisible by 2. Is 256 divisible by 5? Is our last digit a 0 or a 5? No, so it's not divisible by 5. Is 256 divisible by 10? No, it's not, because the last digit is not a 0. So 256 is only divisible by 2. One more problem here. We're going to determine if 750 is divisible by 2, 5, and or 10. So we'll be looking at this last digit. Is 750 divisible by 2? Well, is the last digit an even number? It is. So knowing that 0 is an even number, 750 will be divisible by 2. Is 750 divisible by 5? Well, is the last digit a 0 or a 5? It is. It's a 0. So 750 will be divisible by 5. And how about 10? Is 750 divisible by 10? Well, is the last digit a 0? It is. So 750 is divisible by 10, 5, and 2. So we got to remember it can be divisible by more than just one number. All right, that is the end of our review. We will have our exam or our test tomorrow, and I think you guys will all probably do really well with that. So as long as we watch the Ed puzzle, we should do fairly well. So I'm just going to go over the directions for our exam. before we start our exam, we are going to go to Schoology and open the exam, which will be found in Module 12. Then step 2, you're going to grab a piece of scratch paper to use for your workspace. And then lastly, step 3, we will pull out your multiplication chart and prime numbers chart. And I know it's not on here, but please find a quiet spot with no distractions to work on this exam. It will benefit you greatly, and you'll find that you spend a lot less time when you have less distractions too. So our directions during the exam, we are going to read the directions at the top of each slide, and that's going to tell you what you have to do. Then you are going to solve the problem on each slide. And lastly, if you get stuck, you can remember you can always go back and rewatch the Review Ed puzzle, which is this, to see some more examples or to see those examples again. So here's our directions. These will also be posted on your exam too. But that is everything for our review today. Make sure you check back tomorrow. So it's really important that we get this exam done by Thursday so we can grade it on Friday and get it in the grade book for you guys.